So, tell us your name and when you came to Desert Hot Springs.
My name is Roy Wininger, and I came to Desert Hot Springs October of '56, and this town's been very good to me. I've made a good living here, and it's been really a good town for me.
That's good. Where did you live before?
I lived in Manhattan Beach and Redondo Beach, in the beach areas, just spotting along from town to town, you might say, down there. And well, I hate to say it, but I got a divorce from my wife, and that's why I came to the desert.
Yeah.
And so, like I say, it's been very good to me.
And your work was as
Oh, I did grading and hauling, mostly lot leveling for building sites, and I did some demolition jobs also. Tore down a lot of buildings around here.
How did you happen to choose Desert Hot Springs?
An ex-father-in-law had a business here, and I came out here just thinking I was just going to help him out a little bit, but I ended up buying the business.
Oh, and that was the the grading business?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So then later I became a contractor and did very well here.
And what was the town like? What do you remember about it when you first came into town?
This little town was my paradise. I used to just love when I'd go into LA, and when I come back out, I'd look up down in this pass and see my little town, and I just fell madly in love with this place.
Yeah.
It used to be a beautiful little town. We had all kinds of activities going here, and like when we go into the restaurants, why, we look around, we knew who the tourists were, and because we just knew everybody, it seemed like. And I go up and down the streets with my arms, waving at the people as I go by. And it just seems it was that way.
How many people do you think were in town when you came in the 50s?
Well, just guessing, I'd say about 5,000.
And you were remembering, you were remembering the Idle Hour Cafe.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, I knew Johnny Johnson. He was the owner of that place. And now I knew it as Palm Drive. Let's see, it was called Bar and Diner.
The Palms, wasn't it?
Palms, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a bar and diner. And they had a nice dance floor in there, stage, and of course the bar was just made out of decomposed granite, so it needed to come down. But the dance floor and all that was very well built. It was really good structure. In fact, I had a terrible time trying to tear it down.
So when they tore the whole Palms down, were you involved in tearing the whole Palms down?
Yes.
Yeah.
I tore it all down. I also was in the fire department, and so it was nothing for me to go over there and grab some hose from the fire department, and I'd even burn the places down too. Like, you know, I'd just go grab some hose from the fire department, and I also knew the manager for the water company, and I'd tell him that I'm going to hook up to certain hydrants and tell him what's going on. You know, that's the way we operated in them days.
So you knew Phil Kerr, who was?
Oh, yes.
He was the fire chief.
Phil Kerr. No, he was the forester. See, he was actually in the fire department. I was only a volunteer. But in 1965, I became chief of the volunteer fire department. And of course, that didn't last too long. I think for a year or two. Then they voted someone else in. But that's kind of the way they operated in them days.
Yeah. What do you remember about some of the, when you think about Palm and Pierson and some of the businesses along there?
Well, I'm sad to say I don't like it at all. I think they have just ruined everything by putting the center dividers in, and where we can't hardly drive up and down their streets. And after they remodeled the buildings and put palm trees out in the street where you can't hardly park, it's hard to park. So that's why people just go right on by the center of town. They'd rather go in some mall someplace where they can park. I think they just ruined the town. It looks pretty, you know.
Yeah.
They fixed it up really nice and pretty, but nobody wants to stop there.
Yeah, I think they were partly wanting to slow the traffic down as it goes through there.
Big mistake.
Yeah.
I don't think the traffic was going that fast anyway.
So, what other restaurants and bars and businesses?
Yeah. O'Hara's Restaurant. That's where I met my wife.
Oh.
She was a waitress there, and I used to go in there. Of course, I lived alone at that time, and I ate all my. That's where I got my food. It was in O'Hara's
So was
Restaurant.
that the one on the corner of Acoma and Palm that had the?
No, this was on
O'Hara's.
Hayden's Hardware. You know where Hayden's
Yeah,
Hardware is?
yeah.
Right next door to Hayden's Hardware. It's torn down now.
Oh,
It's completely gone.
Oh, and that was called O'Hara's.
And the what is the name of the restaurant that's there now? St.
Let's see. Well, down the way there's Cottage 2, but that's
No,
not.
there's a restaurant right
Oh,
there.
there's a Mexican
There's a
restaurant.
Mexican
Yeah,
restaurant.
that's Casablanca.
Casablanca.
Uh-huh.
Well, that was a vacant lot at that time, and I leveled off the ground in there also. And that was called Popcorn Charlie's when they first started. And I don't think he made a very good business with it because it didn't take him long to sell out. But the restaurant that's there now is doing very well.
Uh-huh, yeah.
So, but anyway, I met my wife in O'Hara's Restaurant. Then later on, she went to another restaurant called, what was it called? May's Pantry.
Oh, yeah?
She worked quite a while at May's Pantry.
Now, that was on Palm by the old post office location?
Right across the street from the old post office. That was May's Pantry.
Okay.
Then they had Suzy Q's on the corner, you know.
Okay, so Suzy Q was the one that's a vacant building now that used to have had little like a counter.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And I did a lot of business there too. I ate there a lot.
Yeah.
In fact, I was pretty well known at the restaurants.
Yeah.
Anybody want to find me, they can find me in a restaurant.
Uh-huh. And then there was, do you remember Mars Furniture Store? I think it was next to that restaurant.
I didn't pay much attention to furniture stores at that time.
Yeah. And how about the politics? Did you pay attention? Do you remember who some of the politicians were?
Well, I remember that Skip Wright was the first mayor, and outside of that, I can't remember mayor to mayor.
Uh-huh.
I knew some of the people that worked in City Hall. In fact, they helped me do a lot of my business because I was about the only grader in town. We had another guy that did grading, but if anybody had him to do their work, well, I was sure to have him from there on.
Ah.
I could just run circles around him.
Ah.
I shouldn't say that over the thing here.
Well.
He was my buddy.
How were you involved in knocking down the old spa there at 8th and Palm?
You know, I can't even remember. I don't know whether I was involved with that or not. I probably wasn't because I can't remember.
Yeah, it was a big demolition. That was one of the early spas in town. Coffees.
Yeah. Well, see, I had a girlfriend before I met my wife that used to live in those places. There was a house on the corner of 8th and Palm where the 7-Eleven is now.
Uh-huh.
And I remember it had a great big old thorn bush out in the front with thorns about 2 inches long. I remember that because I got stuck by them. And then across the street on where the spa is now, there was a house there, and they had a two-story garage in the back where anyway, that was kind of like a ranch place.
Uh-huh.
Of course, that all went down and the spa come up.
Uh-huh.
in Coffey's Pool.
Yeah.
Remember it?
Well, I know it. We know about it in history, but we don't know about it.
Well,
You know.
Coffey's Pool is where I got my first drink of hot water.
You drank it, huh?
Yeah. Well, they had faucets out in the front.
Oh, yeah?
They want you to drink it.
I think nowadays, do you think people still drink it?
I've seen it at some of the spas, yeah.
I never really think about drinking it. I
Well,
just think of getting into
In
it.
those days, it would be hard to get a cold shower because all our water was hot. And then see later on where they found out by digging down deeper that they could go back into cold water. So that's why we got our wells down 700 feet or maybe deeper by now. But I know they're wiping out a lot of the local wells.
Yeah, the well-known well digger was Tarbutton. Do you remember him?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
I remember Cliff Tarbutton.
Yeah.
You know, his wife, I think she just recently passed away at over 100 years old.
Ah. And then, do you remember the postmistress, Betty Hudspeth?
Yes, I knew Betty Hudspeth. Well, that's the one I'm talking about. Betty Hudspeth. That's the one that recently died.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she lived to be over 100 years old.
Yeah.
I knew her quite well.
Uh-huh. I'm trying to think.
Oscar Scheike, he had the ready-mix business, and I knew him real well also.
How about, you probably ate too in Hayden's Wharf.
Yes, yeah, I've been there too, yes.
Yeah.
Hayden had, seemed like 2 or 3 restaurants. He'd open one and he'd close and go to another one. But he did quite well in his business.
Yeah, well, Chuck Hayden, who was the son of the original Hayden, just recently died, maybe a few months ago.
He's the one that had Popcorn Charlie's.
Oh, the father.
He opened up Popcorn Charlie's.
Oh, okay. And then you remember the parades and the donkey or the mule?
The donkey races?
Yeah, what was that all about?
Well, if you want to enter into that race, you have to sign up, and each morning you would pick a number. You just draw a number out of a hat, I guess, and that's the donkey that you're going to get for that day. And some of those donkeys are kind of ornery. They don't want to do what you want them to do. You can't mistreat them. And so it was kind of funny with some of these guys that get a bad donkey and lose the race.
Well, where did they run them, and how often did they run them?
First it was in Big Bear, and then we started having them here, and they go from here to Indio.
Woo!
You know, they just probably a short ways each day, and then they just stop and mark where they started and where they stopped, and the next day they get a different donkey.
Oh, that's fun.
So that's what made it kind of interesting.
And then you said some of the parades were great back in those days.
Oh yes, we had wonderful parades. We'd close off a whole block, and they'd open up like hot dog stands and popcorn, and they sell little trinkets, knickknacks and stuff like that. And anyway, you could spend the day there having quite a bit of fun.
Yeah.
Not only with the parade, but other activities.
And they used to have Canada Day.
Canada Days, I wasn't too familiar with that one.
Yeah.
I didn't pay too much attention to Canada.
Did you know who did we interview? The Morgans, Les Morgan? And,
oh yeah, I knew Les Morgan.
Yeah.
He did a lot of buildings, and I graded lots for him. In fact, I graded his store. That's one of the first jobs I had when I came to the desert, was grading his store. Remember, I got the bulldozer stuck in there.
And how about where the Sidewinder restaurant is now? What was that?
The Sidewinder, that was owned by another couple. They had that built, and for some reason I can't remember their name. Seemed like it was Emerson, but I'm not sure. But there was another couple that built that restaurant, and then they sold out the Sidewinder.
Can you recall what they called it?
I can't remember, no. I can't remember what they called it. It was kind of a fancy restaurant, though. It was really nice.
And...
You forgot to mention Cabot Yerxa, my friend Cabot Yerxa.
Oh my goodness, yes, that would be terrible to forget him. What's your story with him?
Well, I've had lots of talks with Cabot. I got to know him personally. And one I can really remember is he went to Alaska and he opened up a cigar store. And you stay there 6 months and then most people would have to leave because of the cold weather, you know. And so he chose to stay because his business was doing so good. But he didn't realize other people were moving away. So he liked to starve to death. He says it took 2 weeks to learn how to eat raw fish.
Yeah, you know, they've come up with some pictures of his little business and him up there when he was young. They just, you know, come across that.
Oh, and another thing with Cabot Yerxa, they always say that coffee dug the first hot water well, and that's not so. I saw Cabot's A-frame where he dug the first well. You can prove it. Of course, the A-frame's gone now, but I have actually seen the A-frame. And he had a little house on the top of Miracle Hill where it was dug about 4 feet into the ground, so that winter and summer he could be kind of protected from the weather.
They call that the eagle's nest.
Yeah, I guess it was, yeah. The eagle's nest.
So
it only stood up about 4 foot high.
Yeah. So he was down there in his place there on Desert View.
Yeah.
And was he running it like a museum where people came? And
yes, yeah, he was. But I went in there one day with my grandkids just to go through it and show the kids what all took place there. And of course, it doesn't really matter, but they were telling where he died was wrong, because I went on the resuscitator call the day he did die, and he was sitting in his kitchen table chair reading a newspaper. And he just keeled over, just all of a sudden.
Well, and then did you have any conversations with Cole Erod, who was there?
Yes, I knew Cole Erod.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of work for Cole Erod around there after he took over. I knew Cole Erod pretty well.
What was the work like?
The work?
Yeah, what did you do?
Mainly, the roads would get tore up from the rain, and I had to come in and redo the roads. The roads, you know, behind the what do you call it?
They call it the Pueblo.
The Pueblo.
Yeah.
And I also graded a house way up behind the Pueblo, where Cabot had built another house. I did all the grading in there. And I remember that's when I had my old beat up equipment.
Yeah, there's just a little bit of evidence up there now of that other house.
Is the house still there? I
think there's just little evidence of it, but not much. Yeah, so 5,000 people. So the town was already laid out with the main streets.
Yeah. Yes, they were.
But when you came in through Beaumont and Banning, then what road did you use, and how did you come into Desert Hot Springs?
We come in from, I always turned off on Highway 62. And see, at that time, Palm Drive it didn't go all the way through. It'd stop at Dillon Road. And then there was a dirt road, went part way down, south of Dillon. It wasn't much of a road.
Did you do business with the people who had the stone house there at Varner and Mountain View?
No, I think I've been in there years and years ago, but it's been so far back I can't really remember.
Yeah.
But it used to have a little gas station there, and I think maybe someplace where you buy trinkets and stuff like that. I'm not just sure on that.
Yeah. Well, it's gone now. There used to be a few rocks there, but it's totally cleared off.
Yeah, it's completely gone.
Who were some of the other people that you and your wife ran around with?
Oh, Frank Kibbe and Jim Hated, and oh God, practically all my contractors became my special buddies.
Yeah, Frank Kibbe. Now I can't remember hearing that name. What?
He was assistant manager for the water district.
Ah.
He later became assistant manager, and then he quit. He retired, and he tried to open up a landscaping business, but the Mexicans could outbid him, so he had to just give up. So he moved to Texas.
Ah.
And now he's totally retired now.
Yeah. Can you think of anything I'm missing?
The first hot water well that Cabot Yerxa had, that had the A-frame over it. Can you tell us where that was located?
As you go down the hill, there's a stop sign it's just a stop sign, and it circles down and goes down to Two Bunch Palms. What's the name of that street? Any other time I can think of.
Quando.
Yes.
Quando Way. Okay, well you go down there about to the foot of the hill, just about at the foot of the hill, and he had a well right in there.
Oh right, yeah. There's still water coming up there.
Well, there's water coming farther on down. Yeah, that's where Two Bunch Ponds. That's where they're getting their artesian well. Right. Did you know they have an artesian well?
Yeah.
Water comes right out of the ground there. So if you want to know where the hot water springs is, that's it.
And when did you retire?
I retired in 1997.
Oh, not long ago.
I've been retired a while.
So when you did you do any grading for roads or flood control, or was it all for buildings?
Well, I just once in a while repaired them, but I didn't build any roads. Well, I did a lot of roads. What am I talking about? I can't name any of them, though. No famous road. But I have graded lots of roads.
My mind has gone blank. I think we've learned a lot of things that kind of fit in with all the other history that we've learned.
Well, Cabot Yerxa, he can sure tell you a few things. They had I guess it's kind of like a swimming hole there at Two Bunch. That he used to meet Mrs. Hill there, and I think she used to go in there and get into the hot water.
Who was Mrs. Hill?
Mrs. Hill, I just know her. I just know her as Mrs. Hill. I never met her, but I've heard of her. I've read a little bit about Cabot Yerxa's past. He gave some property away to a missionary, Mr. Getta, that lived right up there behind his property also. So and I think they still have it.
That's interesting.
So on the other side of you know that road that goes up in the back?
Yeah, I had heard that there was something like Buddhist monks or somebody up there at one time.
There was a what?
Like Buddhist monks.
Oh boy, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, we thank you very much for sharing those memories. We really appreciate it.
Well, I sure hope I hope I helped out a little bit.
Yes.
I'm kind of nervous with cameras anyway. So.
Well, no, you've been very natural and good. So, thank you.
Uh-huh.